from the demonstration of the pull requests, we have, it was a really productive week, and we managed to merge some pull requests that unblocked a lot of other tasks that are now filled our backlog. But yeah, the first and probably the most important pull request was done by Yaroslav. Yaroslav, would you like to present the functionality to us?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, please let me know if you see my screen.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Yes, from time to time I have troubles with sharing the screen using James. So, all right. Previously, we had a possibility to save only the images preview from Adobe Stock, and we are moving forward, and we have implemented a new possibility to save the full-sized image using the credits from Adobe Stock, and for this we have implemented a couple of features. So go and see them. Yeah, and in order to save an image, we need to perform 3 steps, actually. The first step is to check how many credits we have available, so to check the quota on our account, and if we have enough credits, we can proceed and save the image. So during the image saving, I will show these steps, what it look like. And the process might take some time because we need to perform 3 requests for saving an image. For example, let's take this PD here, and by pressing the license and save button, we'll have the first request that requests the quota for current account from Adobe Stock API. And we see the pop-up with amount. So we have let's say I say credits, but maybe there's another word for that. But we have a possibility to save for the images for now, and this action will use one of our 40 images. So if we agree with that, we just press OK button. And at the moment, the system is being performed to another request. The first request is for licensing the image, and another one for downloading the image. So it might take some time. Yeah, and it's also quite long because it's a full-size image, and as you can see, the resolution is big, and the weight of this image is big as well. And as you can see, we have this image downloaded, and currently we can use it in our stack content, in our CMS blogs or pages. Yeah, and basically, as I said before that, we under the hood we have functionality for processing the preview images, and this functionality for saving full-sized image required some effort to refactor the previous functionality, because in that build that was previously, it was hard to use it or reuse it for preview and for full-sized images, so it was refactored a little bit. And also all the pieces that were decoupled from the saving preview functionality were covered by a unit test, and all this unit test currently is in the pull request, so I hope that we will review it soon. And yeah, so if you have any questions or some recommendations, I'm open to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Yaroslav.
This is Elena. I wonder, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for showing that. That really looks amazing. A huge step forward. I wonder if you tested that scenario with like not sufficient credits or like not successful scenarios.
That's a good question. I haven't tested it yet. I mean, if you have 0 credits, for example, what happened in this
Yeah.
case? Right. We haven't tested this scenario yet, but it's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess when there is not enough points, it will the Adobe Stock will offer you to purchase image or money instead of credits, instead of images. But I don't think we are supporting that scenario by forwarding the user to the Adobe Stock website in this case, as we cannot I don't think we can implement the purchasing on our site.
No. We don't need to implement the purchase on our side for sure. That's definitely out of scope. I'm just checking like what we have. Do we have Eugene on the call actually?
Yes,
Eugene?
Eugene is here.
Okay. Yeah, so on story level, we don't have not successful scenario. Eugene, do you have a mock-up for the scenario when there is not enough credits?
No, sorry. I also thought that it's handled on Adobe side. Well,
You also thought that
yeah.
people have always credits.
Yeah. So we definitely need kind of like I imagine this would be handled by us actually. So we need to get the quota, like how many credits do they have, and we need to show like a message. You don't have enough credits or something like that. All right? Because like before the licensing, we show the confirmation if they can license.
I believe the stock returns the message like you have 0 credits, and together with that message, they have like a question: do you want to purchase? So the big question from our side, like what we are supposed to add to that message. Like my idea was that maybe we can add a link in the pop-up that will open a separate browser tab with the web stock interface for user to purchase the credits, and everything on Magento side stays as it is, and we shouldn't show OK button in this case because there is no like positive scenario can happen on Magento side until the credits are there.
Yeah, I agree. We need to block the licensing.
Should we actually, instead of hiding the OK button, change the functionality of OK button by navigating the user? Like change it to purchase button?
I don't know, Eugene.
If it's possible to redirect them to the purchase flow, that would be great. I would suggest like still changing the button to something like obvious, like purchase credits or something like that.
But the process will happen outside Magento. We're not going to.
Yeah. We're talking about redirecting them
okay.
to the. Yeah, we probably won't be able to handle that even through the API. So yeah, I will definitely work on creating some sort of like a state for that model. Need to see how the purchasing would work because maybe for different types of accounts the purchasing scenario is different, right? So we may not be able to basically confidently redirect them to the right flow. We will maybe just say, hey, purchase credits at Adobe Stock and maybe the link to, so they can go to Adobe Stock. But that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure that we can navigate a user to the checkout of Adobe Stock, but we definitely can forward him to the image, to the same image in Adobe Stock. Adobe Stock website.
So let's kind of confirm with Christopher, because I believe there is a separate page on Adobe Stock site with the credit packs. So I doubt that it's something that they don't know the URL. So we just need to find out and kind of confirm that this is the URL we can redirect.
Okay.
Do we know, sorry to interrupt, do we know how this works with some other integrations of Adobe Stock and some other platforms? Maybe Christopher could share some examples.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is why I suggest to contact him, because he was part of different integrations and definitely knows more than we do. I can actually check how it works without credits on PowerPoint integration myself, because I have that plugin installed.
Okay. Let us know then.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Yaroslav. Thanks for your implementation and also for refactoring. That is not least important. Okay, let's move on. And another two big pairs were merged during last week, but the contributor is not on the call. It's Shankar Kanar. So I will demo the functionality instead of him. Let me share my screen. So I'm on our cloud instance. Those the same category page. Media gallery. Navigate into media gallery. And right now we added two additional features to the image preview interface. And first of all, it's tabs. Like previously, we had just more from the series section. Right now, we have two tabs, more from the series and more from this model for these images. For this image, they're pretty similar, but if we try some different, like let's search some fitness pictures. We can actually have the model and series. Yeah, so two collections of related pictures. And we also have a new filter. The filter that is not revealed in the filter section, but it actually implemented as filter, just hidden from the filter section. You can apply it by clicking See More link for series, and applying this filter will reveal all the pictures from the same series as the picture we started from. So basically, yeah, you can see the filter inactive filter section. You cannot see it in the filter section, but you can manage it as a usual, as a standard filter. Well, that's basically it. That sounds simple, but those were two pull requests with big volume that also opened the way for other for additional tasks that will make it easier to implement additional stuff for image preview, like adding more hidden filters, like model filter, and so on. Okay, that's it for Shankar's pull requests. Anybody on call would like to share any additional pull requests?
Well, I wanted to show the progress of the coverage pull request. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Right. Well, this pull request was intended to get coverage to our project for the unit test results. Initially, I started working trying to get the code coverage report with a tool called CodeCov, which is this one. Unfortunately, this one didn't give us accurate information. So then I switched to another tool called Code Climate, which is this one you can see in the capture I attached to the pull request. But unfortunately for this one, this tool require some special permissions, and it was a little bit difficult to get those permissions from Magento. So finally, we find a tool that works. It's been used in some other Magento projects, so the permissions is not an issue. We can see it's been used in Magento 2 functional testing framework and PWA project, and now we're going to implement in Adobe Stock. It's almost done, but I don't see the report yet, so it needs a last review. But I hope to have everything working for the next few days. That's all from me.
Great progress. Thanks, Raul. Hopefully, we will finally find our best tool for code coverage.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the report. So yeah, fingers crossed. Okay. Any other things to mention? Any questions or any news before we move on to the grooming part?
Yeah, I wanted to do a little announcement about a change that was just enabled on the Adobe Stock Integration project. Some of you maintainers and contributors sending pull requests to the project may notice a little bit of a new check that's now enabled on the project. The old CLA assistant bot has been disabled on the project, and a new one has been introduced, one that is managed by Adobe. So if you see an Adobe CLA bot check on your PR asking you to sign a document, it should be a one-time thing. Just FYI, nothing to be afraid of. It's a short 2-page document you can read through online. There should be a link to it in the check. And if you have any questions, you can find me on the Community Engineering Slack, Phil Maj. Happy to answer any questions people have, but just an FYI. I think next week we are planning to roll it out across all Magento repositories, but the Adobe Stock Integration project is our test run for it. That's it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely considering that Adobe Stock Integration is probably the first project where we are rolling that, please do not hesitate to contact anybody of us with any concerns, any feedback at all. Good. Then let's move to grooming. I have noticed we have a couple of new stories. Is it correct, Alena?
Yeah, and moreover, we have mockups.
Wow. That's really good.
Yeah, that's why we are all here.
Cool stuff. Can't wait to see.
So, Eugene, would you like to start with the mockups, because we kind of looked at the stories last time. So that would help to kind of share the mockups and then go through the details and stories. Are you there? You are on mute. Silent Eugene.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is also not a comprehensive list of mockups, but just to give you the general idea. So this is a new redesigned Magento Media Gallery, and we have our stock button here, but most importantly, we have a data grid with all the assets that are currently uploaded to Magento Media Gallery. We have a search and filters, and we be able to see each individual asset and its short details. We also can open the overflow menu and do actions on each individual asset, like license, view details, or delete. This is not a final list of actions, it's just a preview of interaction that will happen. So what I can do here is that I can click view details, and there will be some sort of a sidebar that would appear with the image information. Asset information. So for stock, there will be a special sign that it's a stock, and there also will be actions here. So I have still yet to define how this sidebar would be attached to the page. Like currently you see it's not very showing how it will be properly done. Basically what I'm doing is that I'm using Adobe Spectrum components. This grid, it basically comes from Adobe design language, and it represents how the assets are displayed on other Adobe products, and this panel is also part of that design language. So I'm trying to incorporate that design language into Magento design language as much as possible, but maybe it's not fully compatible, and maybe we'll have to use a slide out panel for that, but we'll see. Unfortunately, I have not much to share apart from this. There's also
Eugene, would it be convenient for you to open the GitHub and like show the stories, because like it's easy if the one person shows mockups and stories, so we don't switch the screens. So basically, the stories that we have in the third milestone kind of covers what Eugene just showed. At some levels, a roadmap. Roadmap. Scroll down. Yeah, so the first story is basically that user can open the media gallery, select the image, and view the basic set of attributes that we store for all images. So this is what you saw on Eugene's mockup on the left side, on the right side on the panel. So it's a title, type, dimension, size, and other attributes. And there are some specific to stock images attributes, like is licensed and stock ID. And Eugene also added a nice kind of icon that helps user to identify that this is an image from stock, not just like a toggle or something. So basically the source, I understand, is represented by an icon, right, Eugene?
Yeah, that will be only for the Adobe Stock icons, assets. I suggest not to have a special source for manual upload.
Yeah, I mean, this is like from the data perspective, we just need to recognize, but you can visualize that definitely much better than.
Yeah, so I definitely align my mockups to this list because, like, again, I'm just working on the basics of UI. I will update the mockups to represent the full this list, and yeah, we will work on more detailed image details.
Basically, it would be good if you can link somehow the icons that we can reuse, like that stock icon, to the story.
You mean
not
the source?
The icons that we can use as part of our design.
Yeah, I will create a page that has the SVGs to copy and save. Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so the second story is...
Sorry, I can actually have one more question about the first story.
Yeah,
about one specific attribute, that is type. Like, do we need to store type as an attribute, or it can be identified from the file name?
I think it's a very good question. It's not about type, but overall, like size and other like dimensions. I understand it can be taken from their image directly. And I don't know, and there is no requirements on my side whether we need to store this data in the database or retrieve these attributes in a different way. So it's kind of more a performance concern, I think, and the kind of the data needs to be always actual. So if the image was updated, it would be nice if the attributes are also updated.
From my perspective, I think it's beneficial to store it because that way we can search by it or filter by, let's say, image type. But I have one more suggestion. Can we basically differentiate between asset type and actual image format? Because type is generally reserved to, something, again, if we will have in the future, we will have assets like videos, vector, whatever, right? And JPEG, GIF, PNG is just a format of the actual asset, right?
So you suggest to rename the attribute?
Yeah, maybe have a different name for file format, because I think it is important to reserve type to, to more high-level asset type. Like, what is that? Is that Adobe Stock image, or is it a uploaded file to Magento? That can be actually a good way to. What is that? Is that a stock asset, or it is a local file or video or whatever? I don't know what would be the list of types yet. Yeah, but just to differentiate between those two.
Actually, I would recommend to like base the attributes that we are going to store in database to limit them to the attributes that we would like to show to the user. So what we can see on mockups, there are just few of those attributes. We can add them first. And then if we'll need to display additional attributes, we can add them to database later, as it's much easier to add attributes to database and remove them from database.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, yeah. Could it be based on the final mockup, and we will see which attributes we need to display, and based on that, we will figure out the database structure we need to use for it. Can it work that way?
So you want mockup to represent the actual list of attributes that you want to display?
Yeah, I just want us to be based on, base on user interface, and we will then think it's through, because when we have the mockup, the understanding of the content and purpose of each attribute is much more clear.
Yeah, I agree.
So having the mockup, we can then investigate and think through the technical details and the way it will be stored in database as attributes.
So my proposal then, I will create a mockup, but I will make it extremely simple. So I will not include a lot of attributes, because when I create a mockup, I think of more of like an end state rather than just like to be able to satisfy the certain story. But I will create a mockup just to satisfy that story. So in a way, it would be kind of like the same way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that mockup is already created because it's, I believe, is it the image details mockup?
Yeah.
When you have the slider panel on the right side, right?
Yeah. But again, I'm still not sure about interaction. I'm sorry. I will definitely have attached mockup to this story, just showing how those attributes are visualized in that details panel. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. Good.
All those attributes would be based on actual benefit to the user.
Yeah, because there is a type, I just opened the mockup, there is a type attribute, and it says photo. So...
Yeah, and that is just a placeholder to, just to show something. So you definitely don't look at that mockup as a proof, as a final. I will definitely update it.
Oh, okay. Good. Thanks. Thank you very much.
So can we move on to the next story?
Yeah, thanks. Let's move
on. Yeah, so the next story is actually licensing the image. So you might notice that Eugene added like a contextual menu to each image, and clicking on that contextual menu, you can access the licensing action for the stock images. Can you still? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
you are
can hear
breaking
you.
a bit, but we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in a blue jean, so I figured that something is not right with the connection. Yeah, so there are basically unusual ways to access the licensing flow from the contextual menu. And when you view the image details directly on a side panel, there is a button, license the image. So basically, it initiates the same use case. And once the use case is initiated, we already have that use case when we have a preview stored, and we just try to license the image. So that's going to be the same use case, and I just reference the story with the with that use case in the current story. So, like what we are changing essentially is the kind of adding new access point to this use case. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
That's clear, I think. That's the same licensing functionality, but just different entry point.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Okay, so the third one is viewing the status of licensing directly in the media gallery. So Eugene has that on mockup, like a nice, what is that, like, how you call it, Eugene?
Overlay?
Like a panel overlay, yeah.
Yeah, image overlay.
Like a label, I don't know, yeah. So basically, like this label with the background that covers the image partially and shows that this particular image is not a full image with the license, but just a preview with the watermark. So that will help user to quickly differentiate the image that is ready for using on a production website from the image that is just to kind of play with on staging environment. And this is what the story is about. Any question?
So is it just unlicensed overlay, or it can be in two states or more?
I was thinking about that, and the way I see is that there's not really a value to show licensed overlay for licensed image, because we already have like a marker that is a stock image. So if you license it, you just go ahead and use it. It doesn't really make sense to even have that interaction. When we're looking at Adobe Stock interface, when we're searching for an image, it's good to know that this image is licensed. So we will have that that overlay there, but not on the media gallery. Does it make sense?
Yes. So basically, it's the only the label for only unlicensed images.
Yeah, it's basically serves as a warning, but it's not a status of the image. It doesn't represent the true license status of the image. It's only for unlicensed. Just to warn user, you can't really use it.
Okay.
So I think with all of that image attributes that we kind of introduce here, we need to keep in mind that if we move on to our spin-off project and improve the media gallery user experience even further and introduce search and filtering, we need to be able to filter by those attributes. So I can filter the images that haven't been licensed yet, for example, to find those previews simultaneously. I mean, maybe this is something that kind of we need to consider, I don't know, right now when we create the kind of the structure for these attributes. Make sense?
Yeah. Considering that we are going to base that implementation of media gallery on the UI components, like on the UI component that we use right now for Adobe Stock images in the Adobe Stock panel. Any attributes we have can be used for filtering.
Okay.
Guys, one question. Eugene just mentioned that the unlicensed label maybe doesn't make too much sense to have in the select image grid because if the image is already there, we assume that the image has been purchased. But I was thinking what's going to happen with the preview images.
But the idea is that this is actually the preview image. So when it's in unlicensed state, it's basically a preview. So once you hit license and basically purchase it, we will update the asset to a full image.
And remove the label.
Yes, and remove the label.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay.
Any more questions on that? Okay, so next story is basically being able to see additional image information directly in the media grid. So it's like, I mean, we call it like crucial information or the most important information. So basically we picked the attributes that make sense the most to see without clicking on an image and like waiting until the panel loads and display the attributes, but contextually directly in the grid. So Eugene has that attributes like title, type. We can change the name, call it not type, whatever. So basically, this is it. Yeah, so the story is about displaying these attributes beneath the images. Make sense?
Yeah. By the way, I'm not sure if Magento Media Gallery is supporting more than pictures right now, like videos and files of other type. I believe there are filters, so we don't display non-image file in Media Gallery. So is there any plans for that in future? Just to think about the best way to work with image types.
I mean, guys, that depends on you, to be honest. So if you kind of show some interest in doing that, I'm like all for extending the file type support for the media gallery. But like from my product perspective, the most crucial is kind of to improve and strengthen their like the core functionality for the media gallery. That's why I'm proposing this to do first. And when we have like a strong framework, it's much easier to add and manage more file types, because with the current user experience, adding more file types will just create a nightmare for user to manage.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why I put the new title to this media gallery. It's called Select Images, because this slide out panel is basically a contextual. It pops up whenever you ask to select the image. Currently, it is incorporated in UI related just to the images for now. For example, when you open a page builder image block, you select just the image. You can't insert video in a page builder yet. So when we rebuilding this and redesigning, we need to think about asset types. Like, is it an image that I can insert as a background, let's say, or is it a video that can be rendered in a player or something like that? Definitely good point. We need to think more about like what else this UI would support in the future.
Okay, I understood that. It's actually cool. I can see, I can see already extensions for that functionality that provide kind of image optimization and add more attributes like image size and stuff like that. That can be done really extensible.
Yep.
We go to stories list.
I think we have the last one ready. It's really simple. So currently, to delete the image, you need to select it and then go on top of the slide out panel, find in that row of buttons, find the proper one and delete it. And I'm actually not sure what this action does behind the scene. But it would be nice if the user experience is improved, so I can again delete the image contextually. And when I delete the image, I delete all of the information associated with that image and the actual file, and if there are some renditions, the renditions associated with that file as well. And the confirmation message, if we introduce the option for user to kind of decide, I know what I'm doing and I don't want to see the confirmation every time I delete the message, they can just check that and don't see the confirmation message every time. So it's kind of small story from the user experience perspective, but I don't know how big it might be in the background on the backend side.
Okay, I see one technical challenge with that task. It's actually if we are deleting image and everything related to it, are we supposed to delete like when we are deleting image, it will not be available for frontend. But usually when we do operations on backend, we are not supposed to clean the cache, especially do such resource-consuming operation like clean full page cache for pages where this image is used. But if we will not clean the cache. Oh yeah, probably we just have to limit the deletion operation, like to prevent deletion of image that is used anywhere in Magento on any pages.
But now it's possible to delete that image.
Yeah, so how do we will know that this image is used?
Well, there is no API or no developed internal framework that will provide you that information. That will provide you information that image is used on specific pages. Mm-hmm. But probably, probably we can try to identify it, but it's also a resource-consuming operation, like trying to identify that image is used in blocks or pages will mean just going through all the pages and all the blocks stored in Magento, searching for the occurrence of that image. Because currently it's not relational. Like if we add an image to a block, there is no identification that this particular image is used in other block, except of the path to the image inside of the content of the block.
Yes, that's an interesting challenge to solve. And what if we, my impression that at first we can just refer to the current functionality when we don't warn, and it will be basically we're removing the file and it will be 404 if that image is used somewhere. That is relatively easy to identify for a merchant on the storefront, right? He can go to the page and see that, oh, there's no image, it's supposed to be there. But if we think about like how can we solve that problem, we need somehow to store as an attribute on each individual image, or probably the number of uses, or maybe even IDs of the entities where it's used. And
but based on what Sergey explained, this information might not be accurate because we're not going to run that check like every time.
Yeah, I know. But hear me out. So, for example, I installed this new version of Magento and started using this media gallery, right? I have indexed all my existing images are indexed. It's here. So when I physically go and say add this selected image to a certain page or a block or whatever, we record that event and store it. So we know now the association between the block and the image. And let's say on a page builder UI or any other UI, we can also have the same trigger to deassociate it when, for example, I remove the block. I remove the image from the block or something like that. So we can make it user populatable, this kind of thing. Well, we still maybe not be 100% sure because somebody can just remove the block from a database or do some weird stuff. But at least this can give us some hint. And now we can use this information to warn the user, oh, hey, you actually have this image enabled on these pages. Check those are if you really want to delete this. But it shouldn't be a hard stop. User should be able to still delete it, even if there's associations.
Yeah, and when I actually mentioned the confirmation message in this particular story, I meant just like, hey, you are about to delete the image. That's it. Mm-hmm. Without saying like if it's used somewhere or not. But yeah, in the list of stories, we have a story about like possibility to show where the image is used. It's not written fully yet, but kind of the direction is identified.
Yeah, we need to think a way to somehow determine that. I think we can come up with a sort of solution that makes it good enough to make this So user don't accidentally delete in a normal circumstances. He doesn't accidentally delete the image that is used. And actually, we maybe improve the user experience even further by saying, hey, this image, when he views the details, we can see, oh, this image is used in pages, CMS blocks, whatever. So he now sees that this is important image or something like that.
Yeah, I
To
think
prevent.
that's a very good idea, like establishing a relation between blocks, pages, and images. But yeah, it requires some investigation.
Yep.
Actually, I just thought that we are actually grooming stories for milestone 3, right?
Yep.
And milestone 3 is planned for patch release. As a
I mean,
patch release, is that correct?
we don't do that planning because, I mean, how we can plan? Because, like, if you guys lose the interest and go away from us, I mean, whatever we plan just doesn't make sense. So that's why we don't plan that yet.
But just theoretically, if we will replace media gallery, like if we will try to introduce the UI component to the media gallery, like basically replace media gallery with new functionality utilizing UI component, that is a really big change, I would say. That is a backward incompatible change.
So, like, you know that for sure now without doing research that it's backward incompatible? Because from functionality perspective, we are adding stuff, we are not removing stuff. So I don't see why.
We'll have to remove the existing media gallery to add the new one, at least from the user interface.
Okay, so you mean if someone extended the existing media gallery and, let's say, added a new file type support, like PDF file type support, that extension will be broken?
Yeah, like if somebody added some UI sugar to media gallery.
I doubt that someone added UI sugar, so I would expect I would expect more file type support.
I would also want to point out, sorry to interrupting, that the UI also actually has a breaking change. As you might see, we don't have folders anymore. So I thought about this a lot, and I just don't see folders necessary at the point when we basically uploading images, adding stock photos. That doesn't make any sense to have a direct file structure exposed to the user at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when we have filtering and search and tagging, that totally makes sense. I am like 100% with you.
Yeah.
But in the third phase, we're not going to introduce search because it's really like big scope.
Yeah. So then it's worth mentioning to Sergey that, like, this is not really what we wanted. What you look in here, this is maybe milestone 4 even. What we looking at is maybe replacing the media gallery list of images with this, like, and still keeping the folder structure and not having the search necessarily, right?
What?
So we're talking. So let's think about like what we can deliver incrementally, right? So what if we keep the old UI of media gallery and just replace the thumbnails with a new UI component to allow people contextually license images, delete images, do what they want, but still keeping the file structure. And basically, they would have to navigate the folder to see the assets there. And next breaking change would be converting media gallery to full UI components, removing folders and indexing it so it basically has a flat structure instead of like folders. And then we will say, yeah, it's a breaking change. It's not the same anymore. What do you think, guys?
Well, to be honest, even replacing the appearance of media gallery is a break and change, theoretically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's because it's not UI components, right? It's not extendable. It's just some PHP files, right?
Like we are changing existing UI that could be changed in other extensions or customizations or third-party code. So it's changing in any way, changing the UI.
Interesting.
Is a break and change. But not even talking about UI, to do this change, we probably will need to break to change some implementations on backend side as well. That will also that could also introduce breaking changes. So yeah, in general, we have to think about how that will affect third-party code. Time like this implementation looks really nice, and I like it a lot. I hope we will do it, but yeah, we just have to think about how backward compatible is that, and decide if we are going for that, and if we do, then communicate about that to the Magento customers so that they will know what to expect from such changes.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, like in case we are supposed to introduce breaking changes, we need to need all of the architects to agree on that this is absolutely necessary and kind of approve it, and only after that we can move forward.
Yeah, I believe it depends on the release. Like if it's patch release, then ideally no breaking changes should be included. If it's major release, I think we can add it to release notes. But yeah, we definitely have to communicate about that with architects.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, like to communicate that, we need to have a design and architectural design explaining what's going to be changed, how it's going to be changed. So I see lots of like preparation work associated too.
Yeah, I think it's worth talking to our dedicated architect, that is Sintyabov.
Mm-hmm.
He is not on the call, unfortunately, today, but probably I'm not sure if he will be available for the next one. I believe he's on vacation right now. So yeah, we can connect with him offline, and hopefully he will be joining one of our future meetups, and we can talk about that with him.
Okay, because I like from grooming perspective, I mean, I don't see we can move forward until we have that architectural design defined at least at some level, right?
Well, do you mean architecture approval or architectural design behind those changes?
Design first, so like we understand how it's gonna change and what's gonna change.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can try to prepare high-level design.
Yeah, and from like release perspective, this is definitely like not what we plan, but what we kind of think. is like next release is 234 that is targeted to the beginning of next year. And the next release, I mean, for now, what we think of is the major release, which is 2.4, and that's not gonna happen like for another year, basically. So we will, yeah, it means that we will get like lots of time to
Okay,
to work it out.
that's good. We can make it really really good then, because anyway, I don't think we'll be able to go through milestone 3 until the 2, 3, 4.
You mean, hold on, what do you mean you can't be, no, rephrase it. I'm not sure that I got it.
Yes, so we are completing milestone 2. It comes to together with release 2, 3, 4, right?
Yep.
And then we start in the milestone 3.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, if the next release will be the major release, then probably it will be easier to get all the approvals for it and correctly release it together with a major release.
Got it.
Right, because it would be easier. Well, still, even after the first release of Adobe Stock Integration, we have to support it, and we cannot do backward compatible changes. But that milestone 3 has actually probably more changes to Magento repository, right, than to Adobe Stock Integration. So it's even more critical to ensure we are not harming anything or anybody.
Okay, so can you update me on like the delivery date for the stories that are in milestone 2?
What do you mean?
When you expect all of the stories to be done? I mean, from implementation perspective.
I'm not sure. We have the code freeze soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's tied to code freeze, I believe. So we will try to complete the milestone 2 before the code freeze, and it's in the beginning of November, right?
Yeah. So we basically have months and a half.
Yeah.
But like, do you anticipate to complete those stories like just right in time, or you're tight in schedule, or like you?
We actually have a Zen hub that probably I had to tell about that. I forgot to tell about that in the beginning of the meeting. Let me share my screen.
What is that?
So we have a dashboard on Zen Hub right now. I just configured it. Here's our Adobe Stock Integration project. Not everything is configured here, but burn down report is. So this is our phase 2 burn down. I have added all the tasks to the burn down, completed and done. I've also estimated. That's really a rough estimate, but still some kind of estimate in story points. It's very, very inaccurate, but still makes it possible to compare tasks between each other. I estimated only tasks, not stories. Stories are not estimated. Not to introduce duplication. Here is our burn down right now. The due date is November 8, 2019. So as you can see, we are okay. At current stage.
Great.
Yeah, it's a public page, so everybody can
Can you send me
visit.
links so I have it?
Yeah, I actually will post it to the Slack
Okay.
to Adobe Stock channel.
Guys, is it worth to add that add a link to the page to the README?
Yeah. It was I just completed finalized the burn down today, so I didn't have time to
Okay.
do that. Definitely will add.
Great. Thank you. I think we are done. We even like overstayed for 15 minutes.
Yeah, today was a long meeting. Lots of information and interesting things. Thanks everybody for participating. See you next meeting, next Tuesday. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.